Christopher Sebastian Parker, welcome. Good to have you joining us. So first, tell us a bit about the study that you've been working on.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. So it is, as Enrique well knows, from my work on the Tea Party, this is basically a continuation of the work that Barreto and I did on the Tea Party years ago.
Matt Barreto, who used to be at the University
Who
of
used to be at
Washington.
UW, he's now at UCLA.
Right.
My alma mater, right? Anyway.
Okay, go Bruins. Okay.
Yeah, he left me for my alma mater. Anyway, so in that book we argued that that the Tea Party, unlike Peggy Noonan and these other Republicans were arguing, they were saying, oh, they're Republicans, albeit angry, but they're Republicans, and we're like, no, they're not, right? So they may register as Republicans, right, but they're in no way, shape, or form conservative in any conventional way. And so we did a survey. Actually, I was a PI for the survey, the principal investigator, and proved it. So all MAGA are hardcore Trump supporters, but it's not necessarily the case that all hardcore Trump supporters are MAGA, right? They could be hardcore Trump supporters, simply because they like his policies, right? Simply because they like who he puts on the Supreme Court, right? So these things are not interchangeable, is what I'm trying to say.
So how do you define a MAGA supporter? I mean, how do you
well in the context of our study, we defined what we did was we went to Facebook and we had to jump through all kinds of obstacles. We had to surmount all kinds of obstacles, right? And so it took us about a month to get through that. And actually, I didn't do it, nor did my co-author. We hired somebody to do that, who could navigate the labyrinth that is Facebook security. So, and so we basically interviewed anybody who was member of a MAGA group online with Facebook or liked something that was posted by someone that was part of a MAGA group. Now, beyond that, another way to think about this is to think about the people who supported Trump in 2016 in the primaries, right? That is to say, they could have voted for anybody else, but they voted for him and they stuck with him, right? And if we think about that as a criteria, guys, 50% of the Republican Party affiliates or considers himself to be a MAGA person. Or by that criteria, they're MAGA, right? If they were with Trump, who campaigned on a MAGA platform, right? And they voted for him in the primaries and stuck with him, that proportion of people constitutes 50% of the Republican Party.
Wow. So describe it. What is the psychographic profile of a MAGA person? I mean, who are they?
So MAGA supporters tend to be overwhelmingly white. Surprise. More than 50% of MAGA supporters, according to our study, are at least 65 years of age. They're fairly religious. Almost half of them are retired. Beyond that, roughly 30% of them have at least a college degree. Roughly 50% have an income of at least $50,000 a year, right? And see that those two things really throw a lot of people because they think they're Billy Joe, Jim Bob, and Mary Sue, right? Okay, yeah, they're Billy Joe, Jim Bob, and Mary Sue are part of this, but you also have like Dexter and Biff, and they're part of it too, right? Chloe, they're all part of it too, right? So let's get that. Let's keep that 100%. And Matt and I argued this with the Tea Party. We showed the same demographics, right? Not a whole lot different, right? Basically the same people, just a new name, right? So, all right, let me get to the group affiliations. So they are staunch supporters of gun rights. They are, once again, they back Christian organizations. Roughly 80% are pro-police. Roughly 75% are anti-lockdown. 65%, about 65% are pro-life, right? It might surprise you guys but wait, Stop the Steal is pretty high too, right? Surprise, right? About 55% stops the steal. 32% militia, and roughly 25% are pro-conventional marriage, or if you want to flip it, roughly 80% are anti-gay marriage.
So you basically what you're describing is your next door neighbor.
Well, maybe your next door neighbor. Not mine. So around 90% think that the COVID restrictions need to be relaxed. About the same proportion believe that Trump has been honest about COVID.
Holy cow.
And about 89% believe that COVID is a bioweapon from China. And roughly 70% say that people are overreacting to COVID. Yeah. So, and then we asked the mask question too, but we just don't have it. We haven't posted it yet on the website.
So what does this tell us about?
Wait. We got some questions on conspiracies too. Wait a minute. About 90% believe that our lives are controlled by secret plots. 98% believe that the American way of life is disappearing. 100% believe that forces are changing our country for the worse. And about 95% believe that unknown actors are making big decisions.
Wow. So what about the racist profile? How many of these people are racist?
Oh, that would qualify as racist? Racist and nativist?
Yes.
Around 75% in the case of racist and roughly 90% as far as nativists are concerned.
Wow. So, I mean, basically a lot of this is just based on hate for these people. So who do they hate most? I mean, what's the hierarchy of hate?
Well, we can't. Well, it's hard for us to make this determination that the relative level of hate. But what we can say is hate is just, or discrimination or prejudice are just symptoms of a larger issue. What they're really reacting to is this perception of rapid social change. These people feel like they're losing their country, right? They have this proprietary sentiment towards the United States, right? This is our country. White, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, straight, the whole 9 yards, right? So I'll put it like this. Here's another way, a more simple way of putting it. White, male, middle class or better off, Christian, straight, native born. That, my friends, is what they consider, or who they consider real Americans, quote unquote, real Americans. If you can't check all those boxes, you're fucked, right? It's just that simple, right?
Yeah.
It's just you're not considered a real American. So if you can't check all those boxes, so any of the groups that are not constituted by that list that make any sort of relative gains, right? They see it as a zero-sum thing, right? So let's say if we get some more immigrants here, especially from shithole countries, right? That would include Latin America, of course, right? Or Southeast Asia, right? Well, that's a net loss for us, real Americans, right? If women are making big strides and becoming more and more visible and having more and more success, right? White males, we're in this shithole, right? Right? So it's all about a zero-sum thing. So it's not strictly about race. It's really about difference, right? And for people to say, people used to bring this up to me all the time. Well, Michelle Bachmann's a woman and she leads the Tea Party, and Sarah Palin's a woman. Yeah, but they're not feminists either, right? These women those folks believe that women are subordinate to men, period, right? They're not feminists. So we can see these MAGA people as decidedly anti-feminists as well. Think of Phyllis Schlafly, right? That should paint the whole picture for you right there, right? So the MAGA women are the latter day or present day Phyllis Schlafly's.
Well, so how would you typify that Marjorie Taylor Greene? I mean, she doesn't seem like she would be subservient to men.
Well, she doesn't seem like it, but are you in her house with her?
Oh, that's
right.
True. First of all, I wouldn't be unless I had a gun, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Sarah Palin didn't seem that way either, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And think about Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis Schlafly had a law degree from WashU St. Louis, right? Smart capable, powerful woman, right, in her own right, but still.
It sounds like if you were the character from Gangs of New York that Daniel Day-Lewis played, you'd fit right in here. Basically, you're a nativist, and that seems to be really what drives these folks.
No, it's not. It's not. No, it's not simply nativism. It's racism. Look, there's a difference between nativism and racism.
Right. Now, I'm just saying, I'm not going to. I don't disagree with you about what you're going to say. I totally get that, but I'm just saying that his character really reminds me of that attitude and that just the way he kind of ran things. But okay, so let me ask you this: was it Trump that really brought out these folks?
Yes,
because he was willing to go and say everything they believe in.
That's exactly right. Think about it like this. So in the 2016 election cycle, it was Cruz that was the Tea Party's boy, right? And I mean that in every sense of the word. He was their boy, right? But he wasn't willing to go where Trump was going, right? And Trump went there. So let's keep this 100%. It's not like Trump has invented something new that's sui generis, right? This has always been here. He just brought it to the surface. He brought it out into the sunlight, right? And I would actually argue, as I have elsewhere, I might have even mentioned this to you on one of the interviews you did with me in 2016, where I actually think it was good that he got elected, right? I actually think it was fucking fantastic. And let me tell you why. Because it brought all of this stuff to the surface, right?
Right.
How hard is it to gaslight people these days? Are you sure it's racism? Get the fuck out of here. How can you say that now, right?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, how can you say that? Are you sure it's sexism? Really? Right? How can you say that? Nobody can say that with a straight face these days, right? And so in some sense, right, I think it's a good thing. And that's what I was talking about in 2016. I didn't count on him stress testing democracy as much as he did, right? But we needed it, right?
Right.
Because we take it for granted, right? Look, people of color and women, we didn't take sexism and racism for granted, or nativism if you're from elsewhere, right? That's always there, right? But all of us, right, had assumed that American democracy was stable, right? That these institutions are, as institutions are, they're constituted by taken for granted scripts and standard operating procedures, right? These things hadn't been stress tests like this. I mean, they had before. I mean, clearly, anytime you get a marginalized group that is challenging for the expansion of small d democracy, there is some test when it comes to American democracy, right? But nothing like this, right? Nothing like this, where the rule of law is challenged, right? Where free speech is challenged. I mean, I saw a lot of stuff coming. I didn't see that coming. Right. So,
well,
yeah.
I think you make a good point, because if you look back into the civil rights movement, it was those, in Birmingham, where you had the police and the firemen and the hoses, that shook America about the need for finally kind of accepting some changes when it came to civil rights and allowing the African Americans the opportunity to vote, and other people of color as well. Well, this, along with George Floyd and the video that we have seen. I mean, you can just say, hey, roll the videotape now on Donald Trump or the people in Charlottesville and whatever. Can't deny that it doesn't exist.
No, you can't deny that. But let's go back to, here's another parallel I want to make, you guys. So think about what happened in the 1960s, right? So not only did it outrage, Americans that didn't live in the South and some of the very few progressive white folks that lived in the South, right? But think about when that happened. That was arguably during the height of the Cold War. For Christ's sake, you just had the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? We're talking about Birmingham in 1963. Cuban Missile Crisis was 1962, right? We're talking about the height of the Cold War, right? And so guess what the Soviet Union did? They're like, well, wait a second. You guys are supposed to be this beacon of democracy, right? And look at how you're treating 10% of your population. And so that critically affected the international credibility of the United States, right? So they had to get their shit together, right? So there was some internal pressure domestically, but let's be real, there was also external pressure from the international community to get this right.
So how does that situation manifest itself today?
It's the same thing with George Floyd, right? And you got a president who's acting a fucking fool like this, right? I mean, think about it, right? I mean, he wasn't going to do anything about this, but I think with the Biden administration, if people of color play our cards right, I think we can push him to do something more progressive. And in this particular case, I'm talking about, I don't know, a reparations bill, right? Because the United States has to regain some international credibility, right? Seriously, after all the stuff we've been through these last 4 years, it needs to regain some international credibility, right? What better way to do that than to at least for him and his administration to support a reparations bill? I mean, I'm not saying criminal justice reform isn't important, right? Because it is. And I'm not gainsaying that, but that's fucking small ball, right? Go for something big. And then if you don't get that, then you come back and drop the hammer on criminal justice reform, right? But at least try for something big first.
Okay, so what about all these people now that we saw, attack the U.S. Capitol, and that we've heard from the FBI director and others say that there are major domestic threat in America today? What do we do? What do we do with this situation?
I'm not sure. I need a little more specificity. Like, so what?
Well, I mean, we had, the FBI director said that the greatest domestic threat in the U.S. are these extremist groups that are white nationalists, white supremacists.
Well, I mean, but that's an easy question to answer. You prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. That's simple. But this can be used. I really believe, but to your larger point here, is that I really believe the Capitol riots were an inflection point. Right? I mean, I thought Trump might have been, and in some ways he was, but this guy got 11 million more votes than he did last time in the last election cycle, right? He got 63 million, 16, 74 million, 20, right? So, yeah, there goes that theory, right? That he was an inflection point, right? He still has all these people that voted for him. And so, but with the Capitol riot, however, when you have these people, these mainly white folks, the brown people, I don't know what the fuck to say about them, right? I still haven't figured that one out, right?
Yeah, one of the leaders of the Proud Boys.
Man, him, but I'm really exercising.
And his name was Enrique, by the way.
Yeah, he was also an informant.
An informant,
right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, see, he's a whole gift package.
Yeah, he's really soiling your name, my man.
Wow, God,
you should have never said that. I'm gonna kill you with that now.
Yeah. I'll never live that one down. Okay.
But I really do believe that really serves as an inflection point, because you had these people that were in the cradle of democracy, right? The symbol of Western democracy, if you will, right? That were traipsing through, goose stepping within the Capitol with the Confederate battle flag, and this anti-Semitic t-shirts and hoodies. Are you fucking kidding me? Right? It's like, so I think that really woke a lot of people up. It's like, well, wait a second. This stuff really must be bad, right? And I say that sort of anecdotally. I don't have like any proof, because my survey was based on MAGA people, right? If anything, they doubled down, right? Afterwards, right? So I'm only speaking from my own anecdotal experience, right? Sort of giving these public lectures all the time. Man, these white people are really feeling some kind of way. It's like Mike Tyson just walked up to him and just pow, right? And they're dazed right now, because they just don't understand how this stuff can be happening, right? In the United States, okay, we're locking black and brown people up, we're killing them like the cops are killing them. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up, right? But that's par for the course, right? All right. But now we got this issue now where they're traipsing through our national capital. They're defiling it. They're in the Senate, right? They're in the House, right? Are you kidding me? So for these people, that was just a bridge way too far, right? And this is just once again based on the feedback I get from emails from people and from the questions I'm asked, right? From all of these public engagements I do. These people they want to know what the answer is. They want to know how to fix this, right? And they have never been more earnest now than I've been doing this stuff for like 10 years. I've never seen them like this, right? But for us, for men of color, it makes our job a whole lot easier. See, I don't have to be angry black man anymore because now these people get it, right? I don't have to come in and I don't have to come in and do these talks like, are you kidding me? I no longer get these dumb questions like, really, racism still a problem? I never get that anymore, right? I never get that anymore, right? And so it gives us more. It makes it easy for us to communicate our message of social justice, if you will. But it also gives us more room, you guys, to really, in a full-throated way, continue to press the issue, right? We don't have to hold back anymore. Well, not that I ever did, right? But we don't really have to do that anymore. People really want to know now, right? So I tend to look at this as an opportunity. What's that old saying? Never let a crisis go to waste. Right. Yeah, this is a crisis, right? And we have to really press the case, press the issue, because as we know, people's memories are real short in the United States, right? So why we have this opportunity, you guys, we really need to press the case.
How do you think social media has played into all this? I mean, I sort of have a theory that the pandemic has locked all these idiots inside and they start getting on social media and it just kind of validates them and feeds them down into this hellhole. I mean, do you think that has played a lot to radicalize these guys?
I wouldn't confine it necessarily to social media, although that is part of the information ecosystem now. But talk radio,
Yeah.
badass Rush Limbaugh dying. Hey, good riddance, motherfucker. Bye. Right. Bye. Right. And don't stumble on your way down. Right. So no. So just the media, just writ large, and so you guys remember, you guys are older than me, I guess by looks, right? But black don't crack. I could be older than you guys, right? We don't know, right? But anyway, back, during the dawn, of the internet and the proliferation of media, it was thought. I mean, I could be wrong. You guys have been this is your profession, so I'll defer to you. But just from where I sat at the time, people were thrilled about the small d democratization of information, right? At the beginning. But now, sitting some 30 years on the other side of that now, it seems like, the information ecosystem is effectively siloed, right? And everyone is in their respective echo chambers, right? So we don't really communicate with each other anymore, right? And so there is no longer a critical discourse. And so I would say that the media, I wouldn't confine it to social media. I would say it's more about the small d democratization.
Well, definitely the media set the table when Reagan did away with the fairness doctrine, and it immediately begot Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
when we started down the hill.
Exactly. No, and that was an immediate consequence. No, you're right. You're right about that. So I would so I wouldn't say we can confine it, Matt, if you will, just to social media. I think the media writ large is complicit on the left and on the right.
I understand that you recently talked about this and about your study with a prominent Democratic senator. And what was that person asking, and what did you tell him?
Well, the senator asked me about, well, first of all, the senator was concerned about democracy, and the senator had seen my study, and the senator, quite frankly, wanted to know about the chief antagonists to American democracy, which are the MAGA people whom we study. And I point blank said, like, all due respect, Senator, those motherfuckers are gone and they ain't coming back. That's what I said. There's just like no way, right? These people are ever going to be willing to compromise based on their Manichaean worldview, right? Manichaean worldview, for the uninitiated, good versus evil, right? They're on the good side, everybody else is evil. And when I say everybody else, I'm talking about progressives, Black and brown people, feminists, and immigrants from shithole countries.
So
So
when
this
you,
podcast would be the podcast of the devil. For today.
yeah, right, yeah. And when you say that they're gone, you mean that they're kind of so far off from
Yeah.
their way of thinking that they can't be brought back,
Yeah, they want no parts of real small d democracy. They are not going to permit it unless it is a Herrenvolk democracy. That is to say, a democracy that's for white men. Period.
Well,
right?
you're scaring the living shit out of me right now. So
Well, you know, this is not hyperbole. I mean, this is what all my research has pointed to. Like, look, let me be real. Okay, now Enrique was there when I said this. Remember Enrique when I said Trump was going to win and nobody else believed me, right?
I remember interviewing you about this, and I said, "Have you been drinking something lately?" Yeah.
I was way ahead of everybody else. I put my nuts on the line way ahead of everybody else, right? And I was right about that, right? I was right about this continuing sort of reactionary right? And I'm right about this. These people are gone. They don't give a flying fuck about democracy. They don't care, right? Not democracy in a conventional sense, right? But a more Herrenvolk sort of white supremacist-based democracy. That's what they want.
So what do we do?
We politically marginalize them. You know, we can't just put them on an island and disappear them. I wish
We can't do that.
I wish we could. But we can't, right? We can't just disappear them, right? I wish we could just put them all in Wyoming, right? Just put a fence around Wyoming, right?
There's a lot of space in Texas. So.
But no, what we need to do is politically marginalize them. And I think that can be affected by sort of winning over the Never Trump Republican wing of the party, Never Trump Lincoln Project Republican wing of the party, and also maybe trying to win some of those Republicans who just vote Republican just, because out of reflex, right? Basically, or some family tradition of some kind. And I think if we can win half of those, which is about 40% of the Republican Party, and then all the independents are gone. They are not even leaning Republican anymore. I think there can be, a durable, moderate to progressive coalition can be fashioned, which is not to say that these people won't remain registered Republicans, because they probably will, but it's not like, sometimes people don't vote straight ticket, right? But even though you still might be a Republican and vote for more progressive policy, more moderate policy, yet retain your Republican Party identification.
So based on what happened January 6th, and since now we hear from other government officials, even President Biden said this in a town hall that he had recently with CNN, that our biggest concern is that domestic terrorism, these folks that are extremely to the right, or in this case, like the MAGA people that you mentioned, or can we expect maybe to see more attacks, more violence?
No, well, I'm not, I have to, just to be clear, I'm not, a specialist on, militia groups and stuff like that. I don't know enough.
Well, give me the Christopher Sebastian Parker.
I think that is, since they've already lost the election, I think that they may see one more chance. Well, in the near future, I doubt it. Right now, if let's say Trump runs again in 2024, and he loses, right, and he loses, right, which I don't think he will. Let me give you a scenario. If Biden's still around and he wants to run for another term, then I think Biden will beat him again. But let's say Kamala becomes, she's the Democrat standard bearer and Trump wins. Trump's going to win in a landslide.
I'm afraid that's probably true.
I'm telling you guys. Look, the only sort of person that can beat Trump is an older, moderate white man. Just think about what it took to beat him this time, right? A once-in-a-century pandemic, a cratering economy, and an old, moderate white man. If you remove any one of those elements, he's in his second term right now.
Yep, I think so. I think you're right.
Or his legal problems finally catch up to him.
The only way, okay, look, if the man is not in jail, he will still run and win.
Unless he strokes out over a Big Mac.
Hey, no, you know what? You just stole my line, man. That's what I always say. Unless he chokes on a Big Mac. I always say that. You stole my line, man.
So I've got one question for it, and it's sort of off the subject, but
yes.
How does the MAGA phenomenon intersect with the rise in anti-Asian attacks right now that are going on in the country?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little complicated, right? I mean, it's easy. It would be easy to say, yeah, that's all about MAGA. Well, there's some black people that did that stupid shit, right? And I don't think that they're in MAGA, right? At least the attacks that have happened in Northern California. I can't speak about anywhere else because I don't know enough about them. And not saying that I know a whole lot about what happened, in Oakland, for example. I can only just really comment on a little that I've read. But yeah, I mean, I don't think MAGA would be upset, right, with that happening, right? But I can't rightly say, that's all about MAGA because I can't do that because I'm sure, well, it could be. I mean, those black folks could be in MAGA. We had those, like an Uncle Tom's, that were showing up at the Capitol and wearing Trump hats, and you always see at least 5 black people behind Trump at every speech he gives. Right? It could be somebody like that, right?
Yeah, well, there's a few Latinos in there.
I would guess, though, that the MAGA people are happy that the media is looking at black people attacking Asians and saying that lets us off the hook.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Of course, they're more than thrilled, right? They're more than thrilled. And I mean, just like the right was really happy about, playing up the model minority thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's split the communities of color, right? It's like, hey, they can do it. What's wrong with you black people, right? So that's always been an issue, right?
So as we kind of wrap this up, Christopher, what's next with your study and what's ahead here?
So Rachel and I, we're going to probably publish a couple academic articles from it, and then get a book out of it. Hey, you guys, I'm gonna keep it 100%. We just got lucky. I mean, this survey was originally supposed to have been in the field in November, but because of all of the red tape with which we had to contend with Facebook, we couldn't get into the field till the last week of December. And then the riot just happened like the next week, right? And so, and the reason why that's important, you guys, is because the longer the gap between the time you interview people the first time and second time, the higher the attrition, right? Because people forget about you, or people move and you can't contact them, right? And so we were really lucky to be able to get it in the field as quickly as we did. Basically 2 weeks apart, roughly 2 weeks apart. So the upside is that we were able to retain probably more people than we would otherwise been able to have done. The downside is that it, not a whole lot in the way of long-term change is going to be observed with that group. And so, but again, we weren't anticipating this thing happening. We were just going to re-interview him at some point in the near future. But with this thing happening, and it's so dramatic, we're hoping to be able to pick up some change And when I'm talking about change, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about within individuals. So let's say at time A, an individual has moderately strong attitudes about X, right? And then some event happens, and then you re-interview them at time B. One would hope there would be some change, right? But even if there's not any change, right, there's still something to report because there should have been some change, right? Right. And so that's what we're working on right now. And nobody else has this data. This is the only data of its kind because we were forward looking enough or creative enough to say like, okay, we're not going to be able to get these people in a regular survey. We could, if we just did a regular survey and we say, okay, how many of you guys support MAGA, right? But that's only going to be a small slice of a larger survey. We might get maybe, I don't know, 10%, 20%, but this whole study is about MAGA people, right? So we have a lot more data with which to work. And it is a sui generis population in the sense that, it's just different, and it's sui generis in the sense that nobody else has this kind of data, and only we do, right? And this is the group that is principally responsible for undermining and challenging American democracy, right? So yeah, we're going to exploit the shit out of this data.
Well, they say timing is everything. So we definitely had timing on that. Christopher Sebastian Parker, thank you so much for joining us.
It's good, man. It's been way too long, Enrique, man. I miss you. And Matt, I really like making your acquaintance as well. So hopefully you guys will have me back at some point.
Oh yeah, sure. We will. Yeah. Just to scare us. All right.
You guys be good.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. All right.